just reintroduce myself. Hi everyone, my name is Anjali Anand Seth. I'm the International Admissions Advisor South Asia for my university, Huron at Western University, Canada. And I'm the moderator for today's session, which talks about work and life balance from an educator's perspective. We have some very eminent personalities on this panel today, and I think, as I can see on my screen, I am going to start asking them to introduce themselves. So we'll go with Praseeja first. Praseeja.
Hello and good evening to everyone listening and hearing us today. I'm Praseeja Nambiar. I'm the Career and Guidance Counselor at Stonehill International School in Bangalore, and looking forward to a great session today.
Thank you. Pragati.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Pragati. I work as a university counselor with the Aga Khan School, Aga Khan Academy in Hyderabad. My goodness, I'm forgetting the name of my school.
Shim.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and all those who are watching us this evening. I'm Shim Matthew, Director of Academic Operations and International Partnerships for the Vibgyor Group of Schools based out of Mumbai.
And last but certainly.
Thank you, Anjali. A very good evening to all the panelists and audience, and gratitude to high school moms for creating such a wonderful platform for us today. I'm Chitra, and I'm currently holding the portfolio of an international student recruitment advisor and regional manager for sales and marketing for East and North India and South Asia for Business and Hotel Management School, Lucerne in Switzerland. And I look forward to the session. Thank you.
Excellent. Taking this forward, I'm hoping that it is going to be an interesting conversation. Reason being because the topic itself, the theme for today's discussion, affects each and every one of us, whether we are working or we are a stay-home mom or stay-home dad. This is one thing that is affecting every single person. I was reading somewhere that Michelle Obama, the former first lady, said that we need to do a better job higher on our own to-do list. Because past 1 year of COVID and of course the change in workplace scenario has shown us that there are no boundaries anymore of when you can shut your laptop and say, okay, I'm going home now. My work office hours are off. So in organizations as well as on home fronts, the challenge of work-life balance is rising to the top of many employers and even employees' consciousness, is what I feel. So the reason being is that today's fast-paced society, human resource professionals seek options to positively impact the bottom line of their companies. Whether you're working for a school or you're working for a corporate or you're working for a university, the whole idea is to improve the employee morale, retain employees with valuable company knowledge, and keep pace with workplace trends. Okay. An often spoken in past 1 year is what is work-life balance? How do you define it? And what my understanding is that everybody defines it very differently. So, very traditional dictionary meaning of work-life balance is that it refers to an employee's ability to maintain a healthy balance between their work roles, personal responsibilities, and family life. But I'll be very interested to know, since on our panel we have people from the school education industry as well as university education industry, and I myself, and I think a lot of you have had corporate experience too before you moved into your present respective roles. So what exactly is the definition of work-life balance for you? And do you think it is different in different cultures and genders? While the panel is female heavy, but I would love to know whether do you think it has something to do with different cultures and different genders? And I think I'll go with Praseeja first. Praseeja.
Thank you, Anjali. I think, I would just go back to your point where you said about putting ourselves first on the to-do list and possibly slightly higher on the to-do list again. So something that I feel for me, work-life balance is to be able to distinctively, demarcate or create those boundaries. As we see, the boundaries are being diminished, but I want to bring it back. For me, that work-life balance is just, I maybe it's as it can be as simple as writing down things that I wish to do, creating a wish list, and actually following the wish list, and not worrying too much about what's going to happen on the other side. So I would say stop worrying and start living. If people can read that book, I think we'll get a better sense of work-life balance again. But I think that's my mantra. Create a wish list every day, and see things that you haven't been able to do apart from work and apart from professional achievements and endeavors, on something that internally that gives you some sort of happiness and peace. I think let's start putting that onto our our to-do list should include those things as well. And that's my work-life balance. Culturally, I feel we are all on the same boat. We all are experiencing Zoom fatigue. We all are experiencing image issues. We all are experiencing uh, lack of lack of fulfillment, lack of self-worth. So culturally, I feel we are all in the same boat. However, in gender-wise, I would say these issues are there on both sides. It's not just that we females go through just because we have to have we have to take care of the family and the kids and all of that. But I think let's not rule out our male counterparts also. They have their own set of challenges that they're coming around. So I feel gender-wise and culturally and ethnically, I think we all are experiencing the same, thing across the globe. Yeah.
Pragati?
Hi. So for me, work-life balance, it's about it's a dynamic process for me. It's not just about all work or all life or all about personal space. So it's a dynamic thing which changes day to day based on the need of that particular day. So sometimes work-life balance could mean that I'm giving 100% to my work 24/7 maybe, and there would be times when personal space and relationships will take priority, and I would cut off completely from work and focus completely on that. And there would be times when there would be a blend of the two where I do work. And so work life balance is about prioritizing what is important for me today, for my own personal happiness, mental peace, health. I think physical as well as mental health. So that is about and as procedure was saying, that having the ability to have clear boundaries is very important for me as well, to maintain that work life balance. In terms of culture, I feel that sometimes it's very difficult for people who've been brought up in a Southeast Asian or an Asian culture to draw that boundary between work and life. We either make life completely important or we make work completely important, and we forget about the other part of our lives. And that's part of our conditioning. And due to the big population that we have, that we always want to be ahead of the race, we want to be the winner, we want to be at the forefront. We are insecure that we may lose out on something if I'm not available to my children or to my bosses, both ways. So I think culturally it's part of why we are facing this work life imbalance, especially so in the current times. Gender wise, I feel that both genders have their own challenges. Maybe 20 years back I might have thought that women have more challenges than men, but after so many years of working, I realized that it's very similar in terms of challenges for both genders. They may be different, the context may be different, but the issues remain very similar. So that's what it is for me.
Thank you, Pragati. And I'll come back to the difference in cultures, and of course, Shim is holding the torch for all the male gender here. So before I move to Chitra and make it like all female experience first, let me just move on to Shim and ask him work-life balances, because it could be a different explanation where a man understands how it happens. So Shim, your views on this, and of course, do you think it is gender specific?
Thank you, Anjali. In fact, I was thinking, would Anjali go to Chitra first? Because we have three ladies who would speak, or would she finally pick me up and then go to Chitra? Well, you read my mind, looks like. And It is very ironic, Anjali, frankly to speak, while we're sitting here and discussing work-life balance on a weekend, which supposedly for Indians makes no sense, right? For a lot of our countrymen, because for us, work is through the week, and Sunday is not as easy as it might seem for a Westerner than for an Indian, because for us, even on a Sunday, is completely packed. Having said that, there are a lot of people who speak about work life balance as a myth. For them, work life balance doesn't exist. People call it work life harmony. People call it work life joy. People call it work life prioritization and everything. But I think if you ask me, for all of us who are professionals in fields of counseling or managing schools or managing people, companies, human resources, what it would mean is when you're able to kind of find a balance between your professional life, your private life, and your social life. So, your professional life would mean where you earn your bread from, where you earn your money from. Your private life would mean your life with your family, your children, your wife, or your spouse, or people that you like, your parents. And your social life would mean all of that you wish to pursue, which becomes a part of your passion. Some may call it a hobby, but I would call it passion. And when you're able to synchronize all of them together, that's where some semblance of a balance comes in. The point that you made about from a perspective, from a gender perspective, I'm so thankful to Pragati that she stood up for a man, and she said that until some time back and until now, and going forward now. That's so true, Pragati. And sometimes I feel that we as people, at least in this part of the country where women, it was a skewed approach to a woman's approach to life. Fortunately, those things are changing, and that can only happen when you're educated, when you're enlightened, when you know things can evolve. So every evolving society I have seen in the past, or what I read now, or what we see now, has given women their due place, and that's so important for that balance to be maintained. I think when you have a skewed approach to a woman and a gender or to a man, that's where the problem starts. So I'm happy to share that the fact that for me it becomes critical for a man and a woman, irrespective of the gender, to play an important role to ensuring that there is balance. And that's my approach towards a work-life balance, as I would see in my perspective.
Said, Shim. And the last, again, but not the least, Chitra, I need to understand your approach to it because, as a university representative myself, I realize that I am working different time zones. And as a university representative yourself, you're working in Indian time zone as well as you're working in a foreign time zone. So, how has work-life balance changed for you, and how would you define it in terms of the work you do and the the difference in culture and there. So, what is your take on that?
Thank you so much, Anjali. I think my friends Shim, Prasija, and Pragati, they have spoken everything about what was going on in my mind. So I'll take this work-life balance from my perspective I'll take it in a different way. Being a university counselor, we are like my office is in Australia. My boss is in Australia, so he starts working from 5 o'clock my time. So I have to get up at 4:30 and start my office at 5 with him. And in India, it keeps on continuing till 10:30, 11. So if I have to work, I will become a robo. I will not remain a human. So what I feel that we need to somewhere be work smart, not only work hard. So what we have Indians as cultural point of view, I will say that generally we have this thing in our mind that I have to work very hard to earn my bread. No, you have to work smart to earn your bread and at the same time utilize your time to have a happy life as well. From gender perspective, I just don't agree that males or females or a woman of the house is more is not able to balance work and life. She has to take care of her children and home and other things, but the men also equally, they have their own set of challenges, as Pragati and Prasija and Shim also mentioned. So even kids, I will like to even put their perspective that class 12th or even for the students who are in college, they also have a lot of challenges and they also have to balance their, if not work, I would say at least a career, education, as well as a social life, which equally asks for their time. They also need to understand that Time management is important, where they can equally devote time to work smart and at the same time equally devote the time for other things what they want to do in life to enjoy a good life now and also in future. So that is my perspective on work life balance, that work smart rather than only work hard.
Yeah, super. I think well said there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to like open the floor. Everybody who's joined as attendees, most welcome to put in their comments, and we'll try to take some questions and comments from there. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about work-life balance. But please raise your hand. If you want to add to it. I don't want to go. Asking. Most welcome to give your point of view. What I understand right now, from everybody's perspective, and because we are in the education industry, we are dealing with three different generations. You're dealing with the baby boomers who were born in the 60s and early 70s, who have now reached to the level of directors and principals in the school. And then you're dealing with the generation X, which is our generation, which has a different viewpoint on that. So baby boomers generally had no balance between work and life. They just said you need to work there, you need to save money, and then you need to make a life, whatever. And by the time you realize, I think you're already old to enjoy the benefits of whatever you've earned. And then you have the generation X, those who were born until the 1990s, wherein they realized that their parents had no time for them, and they asking for perks and other things, to maintain some kind of a semblance on work-life front. And then we have our students who are the millennials. For them, I don't think work makes so much of a difference, or salaries, as long as they're able to maintain a certain lifestyle. So for them, work is just part of life, which is not. In respective arenas, how think you're able to balance this difference of opinion, and what are the challenges that you face? And I think I would begin with Shim first here to take the floor and talk about, because he's at the operations level. So how difficult it is to manage these three generations when it comes to work-life balance, because their definition is very different. Shim?
Thank you, Anjali, for that. It's actually a very critical question that you asked about, generational divide in terms of, or perception or approach to what work is and what life means to them. Many times we've heard about this word, and we've heard it quite often, that we are living in a time where the generation seems very entitled, and this is a word that is often used. But I know there's another part to the whole story of being entitled, feeling entitled. Well, we come from a generation where it was only work. They never thought about balance, because balance didn't exist there. It was more about working to survive, working to make sure that you have sufficient to meet the needs of the next day, of your next set of, or your children who are going to come up after you. Somewhere down the line, when, as I mentioned to you some time back, when societies evolve, even as you grow, even as you prosper, even as you economically become better than what you were before, that's when you start thinking about these higher things. I think Chitra may agree with me. These are something that you would call as something that where you reach after some time, and then you start thinking about what does a balance mean? Because for us, it only meant work. Unfortunately, sometimes organizationally, if we don't endeavor to build in a culture where you possibly support, promote that kind of a balance, we will still be in the same rut like in the 60s or in the 70s. Things will not change. And Anjali, just to quote, in the World Happiness Index that the United Nations did a survey in 2021, you have all the Nordic countries right on top. They have made it to the they have made it onto the top list, and we are 139. India is 139 out of 149 countries in the World Happiness Index. It talks a lot about who we are and what we think about work, what we think about balance. The day we are able to understand that I've reached a certain point of time, a position of time in life, or when it, because happiness means happiness for everyone. It's to do with prosperity, it's to do with poverty, it's to do with your belief in your government, it's got to do with good administration. So it's a lot of it's a combination of a lot of factors that lead to that happiness that one would derive. But generationally, if you ask, uh, if as educators and people who are talking about it today or must have spoken about it in the past year or years back, I think it's high time we start letting our people know, letting our children know that there is a very important quality to be maintained. And if the Nordic countries are able to do it and still achieve a level of excellence in terms of standard of living and still be the most happiest people, I mean, there's so much to learn from them. So it's important for us to introspect and figure out what is it that would help me, not just in my generation, but in my generation to come. What's it that I'm leaving for my generation? It's not just a green planet or a happy planet, but also a place where people are satisfied, happy in what they do.
Well said, Shim. But realistically, if I can ask, the counselors here, how difficult is it to say no? Parents approach you, and since everything is online right now, I don't think we've kind of missed out drawing a boundary of when does the office hour begin and when does it shut. So how difficult it is, and the definition of happiness could be different for other people. A child could be unhappy because you did not answer their call, but you will be happy because you decided, okay, this is my off time. So procedure, well, how do you manage that?
I think it is difficult. It is difficult on many accounts. One, to say no to externally, someone outside your personal circle, and saying no to yourself. So these are two things that I feel very, very strongly for. The first thing that starts up with, because we went into pandemic abruptly. We were not ready for this. We didn't know. We were working in the bubble of happily working, catering to students from different diversities and nationalities, and really everything was in sync. All of a sudden, we were thrown into this pandemic where we were working different time zones, handling, anxiety levels just shooting up the roof for parents and students. So we inevitably wanted to be there for everybody. Okay, and we put ourselves in the last, said, okay, this is the need of the hour. Let's go ahead and do for the community, for the greater good. And that's where, when you start doing one thing and you continue doing that again and again, it turns into a habit. And you neglected that inner voice that, okay, today I'm not free, but I still need to do this. You start in your head, you start kind of, eliminating there's not so important things and putting, prioritizing a student or a task or a transcript or an application just for the greater good, just so that the other person feels good. And in the process, it has become it's become a spiral where the person catering to this need, in this case the counselor, it's herself or himself, is going through a difficult situation where they are not able to prioritize work, they are not able to take the right decision in the right time, they are not happy, and then no wonder therapist sessions have increased, and mental illnesses have come to the forefront even for all employees. So my point is, something, it becomes a habit if you don't stop it. So the first step to do that is set expectations, set the right expectations. I think we all are professionals. Parents understand that, students understand that. I think it's a human nature to, when you set a boundary, even when a parent sets a boundary with this child at home, the parent, that becomes a parenting style. So similarly, in a professional setup, when you set boundaries, when you set expectation, this is what is possible, this is not possible, I can try this much. And when you said that and you give your 100% within that, I don't think anybody is going to, I think it's a win-win situation that we are trying to create, right? So something of that sort of, part one of the pandemic we all sailed through. But I think part two, we all are taking baby steps to become more efficient. As Chitra said, work smart, not work hard. So we are living in a generation with ample technology to help ourselves to manage our work, to able to finish work, reduce redundancy in the way we work. I think let's use that, set the right expectations with students, with school officials, with parents, and I think everybody will come in together for the greater good, as I said. Yeah.
Talking about setting the right expectations, I'm just going to keep within the school front here, and Chitra, I'll come back to you later. But Pragati, tell me something that during these times we've seen that people have experienced very poor personal and co-worker relationships, and there are reduced job satisfaction. Schools, especially, with the way economy went down and schools faced not just a salary cut and other things, and things just became terribly busy for teachers and added to reduced job satisfaction. How do you think in these times, especially when you're working from home and when you're teaching, you're not just teaching the students, you're teaching the entire family and everybody pops in. How difficult was it to manage those times, Pragati?
Luckily, I didn't have to face a pay cut or something. Um, an increment freeze, yes, but not a pay cut. So we were one of those lucky people. But yes, we are aware that a lot of teachers and employees across the globe, I wouldn't say just teachers, but even corporate sectors took a lot of pay cuts and, salary cuts and reduced salaries, sometimes even going down to 25% of what they were earning. So to continue working in those, and along with that, parents objecting to giving school fees and things like that, there was a lot of pressure which came externally. But what I would say about the teaching community is that they started putting in more than they would, so that they can be relevant, so that they can be make the organization or the management feel that I am important to this organization and you can't throw me out. So with reduced salaries, people started putting in more work, and that is a vicious circle, which has led to burnout. So in that process, we are on WhatsApp. If we don't respond to a message, when I say we, I'm representing the entire community and not just myself. If we don't respond to a message at 11 o'clock at night, where a parent or a student says that I've not got this PDF document and I have a test tomorrow, the next day morning, I've heard from my cousins and sisters, or spouses. My husband is also a teacher, so where they get reprimanded that why didn't you check the message at 11:30, and that could become so these create a lot of mental stress for employees in. But those who have actually survived and have successfully survived are the ones who have been able to set very clear expectations from their end, as Prasija was saying. Surprisingly, we feel guilty of setting expectations because our parents are from the generation where sacrificing was the mantra. Sacrifice for your parents, sacrifice for your children. Our generation was about empowering ourselves and financial independence. So we feel guilty of letting go of that independence, and we feel that we need to hold on to it tight. Otherwise, somebody is going to take it away or I will lose out. So we feel guilty actually when we start setting up boundaries. But those who are actually successful and have done so very well have been those people who have said clear no, that after 5, I don't work. After 8, I definitely work, and those who finish their work on time. So I think those expectations part has become the most important thing. But what I am grappling with is the guilt of saying no. How do I say no? Here is a child who feels insecure because teenagers living with parents 24/7, in families are not made to live together 24/7. It's not natural, right? Spouses don't live 24/7 with each other. Since God knows, since I think the Stone Age, they don't live together. Somebody goes out to fend, somebody stays home to take care. Children go out to play. But now, for the last 1.5 years, everybody is together, so that, boundaries have fudged. What is the mother's role? What is the father's role? What are the child's role? Imagine that guilt that I am dealing with a teenager who's living with his parents 24/7. So if I say no to him or her, my goodness, that child will feel so bad. And then you start understanding too much. I think it's such a vicious circle that all of us are going through. And clarity of boundaries is what actually helps a lot. Even with teenagers, I see that when I stop answering my mails, it stops coming as well after office hours. So that's what I feel about the question. I don't know whether I've answered it correctly or not, but
No,
that's.
no, you have. I agree with the fact that a lot of people define success with the amount of time they put in that work rather than the quality of time that you put, or quality of work that you are. But that brings me to Chitra, and I can speak also, because at present I am dealing with, and as a university representative yourself, tell me how you feel about it, or am I the only one? I'm dealing, with, because of these challenging times, I'm dealing with three different year groups. So the 2020, which started learning online, couldn't go to their universities, couldn't fly out. 2021, who are already in the process of flying out and are hoping. And then I'm dealing with the next batch, 2022, which is ready to, start thinking on the lines of whether they want to go abroad or not, or wherever they wanted to study. So these are 3 years that I'm dealing, and of course, work-life balance has gone for a toss. Do you think the employee stress, it is increasing the level of burnout and lower productivity, and of course, a lot of health-related problems? What has your experience been in this?
Thank you, Anjali, for that question. And yes, definitely, because 24/7 we are sitting on a chair in front of the screen, and our eyes are just glued to that screen, whether it's on a phone, or it's a WhatsApp, or it's a laptop. So definitely it's a challenging time. It's taking a toll on our health, mental, emotional, and physical health, definitely. And since we are working from home, I have seen that some people, or some of them, some of your colleagues also will think that, okay, you are working from home. You don't have to travel to office. No stress of cooking or getting up early. You don't have to send your kids to school, tiffin banana. So nothing. You don't have any challenge at home. So why are you not picking up the call? Why are you not answering the emails? So, but yes, here we have to be little firm, and I believe in being firm, that somewhere we have to draw a line and understand that work life balance doesn't mean only my work, my job that is paying my bills, and my personal life with my family or friends or society, but also me, myself. So I do not want to compromise on my emotional well-being or my mental well-being, and that is what I discuss, or I speak, or I tell my colleagues also. Don't ever compromise with your emotional well-being. So whenever you feel that, no, this is something where I have to draw a line, I have to set a boundaries, set it, and say a firm no. So that is something I feel we all need to do right now, and clearly get out of the thing that working from home doesn't mean that we are 24 hours free. In that 24/7, we have to manage a lot of things, and everybody's expectation. We have to, by grace of God, we are not going out for marriage or any other ceremonies. Otherwise, those things are also piled up. But then whatever it is, we are actually getting culturally also somewhere cultural, or family, friends, everything has to be, maintained. So take short breaks, take short vacations. I will give just some simple things that I practice and I tell my colleagues to do, and they have said that it has worked. Number one is practice the rule of 50:10. So any task you take at hand, you can start from a lower time limit. So it can be like 20:10 or 30:10. So I do it 50:10. I tell my daughter, my colleagues, everybody to do that. So 50 minutes you focus on the task, 10 minutes just get up from your seat, no matter what. You will not take your phone call. You will not look into the screen. You will just, maybe you can do a pranayam or a breathing exercise, or maybe you can just walk around, interact with your people around, munch something good, do something. Just get out of that cycle for 10 minutes, and it works. When you come back again and you sit, you are rejuvenated, you feel fresh, and you can again focus. But 50 minutes will be dedicated. That we have to have that discipline in us, that I have to schedule this, I have to stick onto it, and I have to set. And if I'm not able to do it, skip that task. There is no hard and fast rule. If anything that you can think that it is not priority today, or it can be done after 10 days also, skip that task. Don't keep on spilling your time from one task to the other. So these are just small little tips, I would say, since it's a work-life balance platform. And some things that have worked with me. And one more thing that has worked with me is drop everything and read. We used to do this in my in one of my schools where I used to teach in kindergarten and also middle school. So we used to follow dear time. Though now my daughter says it is drop everything and run. So run away from each other. Mama, let us go to some different rooms and not see each other's face. So I said, fine, that is also fine. I'm happy with that. So if we follow that dear time, I think it works wonders. So we have books all over in the house, whatever you wish to read, drop everything and read. You just disconnect from these gadgets for those 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour. Give this time to yourself. Mental and emotional well-being of our own self is important for any work-life balance. If I don't create a good and happy environment for myself, I will never be productive. I will never be able to make others happy or my environment harmonious. So I feel these are certain tips that I follow if it can be of any help to anyone. So that's why I shared. So drop everything and read or run, your choice. And 50 is to 10 is something I do and it works wonders. And so we can try. So this is my take, Anjali. This is how I deal or I help or educate my colleagues also, my children also, and my daughter. So, and it has helped. So that's how it is.
Excellent tip. I will definitely follow that. And what I did was that I follow Vipassana in the sense that because we talk so much on Zoom to students, phone calls, I tend to just keep quiet for one day. Believe me, it's a very good day for my husband and my child because there are no orders coming from my mouth. But on a serious note, Shim, because you're part of operation, the solutions that you found in past 1 year, trying to maintain this balance for your teachers in the school. I know a lot of schools and institutions started wellness program, yoga came up. Whoever thought that yoga could be taught on screen? But what is it that as an operations head were you able to do for your, or what would you suggest that should be done?
Not an easy question to answer. Because as you rightly mentioned, it was so good to hear Chitra speak that I was in another world. I wish it becomes that easy, Chitra, for me at least. But that was so beautifully put forward by you about the alternates to or solutions to how we could better ourselves in terms of the work-life balance. So Anjali, when I think Pragati touched upon it some time back, or procedure, I don't remember, that we were pushed into this online scenario, which is actually so unreal. And we will not be able to manage this anymore. I'm telling you, mind you, we are getting into an epidemic of the mind. We are getting into something that is slowly killing our souls and our children and families. And I think Pragati put it in a very strong term that you were not made to survive 24/7, 365 days together. Today, children want to be out in the rooms, right, and be away from parents or maybe people. So, as a school group spread across the country, we found it really hard because we had to move into curricula that would take care of the students' needs at the same time, meeting up with all those WHO standards, the CBSE and the national curriculum standards of screen time, ensuring that they don't, get into a situation where they would spoil the rise, the conditioning, the mental conditioning would get disturbed. So we had to redo our entire curriculum that would fit in within a specific period of time. And that's what we did for all the way from pre-primary all the way to grade 12. So we had to rework. In fact, it was a paradigm shift of sorts. Anybody who did Zoom or a FaceTime call with their colleagues was somebody who was different, abnormal. But March 20th, 2020, everything changed, and you were pushed into a Skype or a Zoom or whatever you call it, right? So what we did was we initially get over the phase of reaching out to students, which means we needed to work almost 24/7 to make sure that we give the students what they need when they come back to school, because April school starts, so you don't have much time for the transition to happen. So frankly, if you ask me, Anjali, what did I do or what did we do to ensure that our staff across the country have some kind of a balance? Difficult question, because we only made sure that if there was a requirement, we would be reaching out to them, because we have counselors and psychologists in all our schools, counseling psychologists. They could reach out to any of our counseling psychologists across the country. It could be students, it could be teachers, it could be anybody. So we made sure that happens. You could speak to them, and if you think there's a situation that demands some kind of an attention, immediate attention, we tried our best to ensure that we would extend some kind of a support. But you know what? What I wanted to share, Anjali, was before coming in for this talk, I did a small survey, and I had around 230 people answering that survey. 11 questions were sent across to them, and what I found was people continue to think about work even while they were not working. It was a clear
Yeah.
50-50. Out of the 11 questions, my last question was, do you feel guilty about work while on leave or vacation? 50% said yes, 50% said no. Now, 50% saying yes while feeling guilty while on vacation is a big number for somebody who's a teacher or for somebody who's in the field of education. So there is much to be done, Anjali, in fact. But I know that this is a passing phase. This will be done with. We are living in an unreal world. We have to come back to reality. And thank God our governments are thinking about opening up schools. That is so critical for the mental health of not just students, but you and me as well.
Yeah, well said. And I am going to catch that phrase of epidemic of the mind, which I just put in the chat box. Interesting. I would like to know more about what your thought processes maybe later. But something that you brought about, yes, people just don't know how to shut off, even if you do. But from a perspective of being a counselor or a teacher at a school, do you think flexible working hours will make a difference in maintaining this work-life balance? Because we come to an understanding that you can be taught online also. So what if schools were to open, say, for 3 days or 4 days in a week, and the rest of kids, you don't need to come to school, stay home, flexible work hours both for the teachers as well as for the students. Do you think that is really going to work, procedure?
I think it will. I think it will. So I'm just taking my own work, my own example in this case, where even when the school reopens, I'm sure every school has a school reopening handbook, and there is protocols and processes in place. But we've been clearly told that if you're not needed, you will not come, which means that if you can manage things from home, do it from home. Which is, I think, it's a great. It's beyond. I mean, this is one thing that possibly contributes towards job satisfaction, right? So when I'm talking about work-life balance, I mean, we have to be satisfied in our work also to come back home happy and feel good about ourselves and celebrate. So this is, I think, very very important, because this is a trend. This is a phase which requires us to think dynamically, change our routines possibly every now and then according to our family situation. So if we are allowed to have flexible working hours, great. The same thing applies for students as well, where students won't be coming in every day. If they don't have a lesson, they will not be coming in. If they have a lesson, they can come in. Yes, as a school and as an administration, there are few checks and balances that we will have to keep in terms of attendance and ensuring that other holistic aspects of school learning are not hampered. But I think that is going to be the case until parents, students, teachers, everyone